Righty, let's try launch control.
Search Auto Trader.
The wait is finally over. As you can see next to me, we have the 5th generation of the Golf R, which is based on the 8th generation of the Volkswagen Golf, making this the 3rd generation of Golf R to reach South African shores. Now, sure, this car is here in studio with us in South Africa, but at the time of recording this, it wasn't yet for sale in South Africa. Now, depending on when you watch this video, it might already be for sale, but join us today as we dissect this model and take you through what you need to know about it. The real party piece with every Golf R is its powertrain, and this car is no different. It's both the fastest and most powerful Golf R in history. It features the ubiquitous E888 2-litre turbocharged engine from many Volkswagen models, but it's had some fettling done to it and includes a bigger turbocharger, which allows it to produce 235 kilowatts and 400 newton meters of torque. That engine is paired to a 7-speed dual clutch transmission, which allows the car to sprint from 0 to 100 in a claimed 4.8 seconds and go on to a top speed that is electronically limited to 250 kilometers an hour. Now, those performance figures might not actually be the truth, because you see, we've seen international testing and local testing reveal that this car is quite a bit faster than its claims figures suggest, with 0 to 100 coming up in closer to 4.5 seconds. But also, there is a black performance package as an option, which raises the top speed to 270 kilometers an hour, adds black wheels as the package might suggest, but also adds drift mode to the equation. And that brings me neatly to the all-wheel drive system, which is quite a bit different to the previous Haldex version in the 7th gen model. Now features front and rear electronically controlled locking differentials that can send up to 100% of the power to the rear wheels, making this the most dynamic Golf R in history. As important as performance is in any Golf R, one could argue that aesthetics are equally important, and I think at least that this is the best looking Golf R yet, with its more muscular proportions, and indeed this particular press car's nice Akrapovic, I never know how to pronounce the name, but it's got those exhausts, right? And I think they look pretty good.
Akrapovic.
There you go.
As does the entire body kit. Now, there aren't all benefits to having a Golf R. There are some practical considerations, like the lower ride height and the fact that this car has got 41 litres less boot space than a standard Golf in order to accommodate that four-wheel drive system. That means there's just 341 litres of space on offer. And speaking of space, let's head inside and see what the latest R is like inside. Stepping inside the new Golf R, we are greeted with the familiar, fully digitized cockpit that we first saw in the 8th generation of the GTI. Now, there are a few differences, most notably these seats, which have now got this carbon fiber look inlay and blue stitching. There's also a general blue theme inside here that goes with the whole R badge nomenclature. But the system is pretty much the same as that in the GTI. I'm just told that it has upgraded software, but we'll get into the functionality of everything when we head out onto the road. Other highlights of the interior include this minimalist gear lever, as with the HGTI, a wireless charging pad. This car has also got a raft of semi-autonomous driver aids called IQ Drive, which include things like blind spot assist, lane keep assist, collision prevention, adaptive cruise control, and various other semi-autonomous driver aids. This has also got the Harman Kardon premium sound system, the IQ light system, the aforementioned titanium exhaust system, and pretty much every optional extra apart from the black performance package that I mentioned earlier. So this is a highly specified car, and we can really only speculate on what the price would be. But if we look at the current price at the time of recording of this car's Audi S3 sibling, it was around 890,000 Rand, and we look at the price of the top spec Golf GTI at the time, which was around 740,000 Rand, it would be safe to assume that the 850,000 Rand mark without options is most certainly a possibility for the R. And with options, that could escalate to over $1 million. So where do you take $1 million Rand performance Golf? Well, I thought let's take it to its spiritual home, which is in Four Ways. I'm just kidding, but we really are going to Four Ways though.
Yes we are.
Yes we are. We're gonna clap butts and look at the old billies. We're officially out of the studio and out on the streets of Johannesburg in the new Golf R. And well, I just wanted to give you a bit of a brief driving impression of the vehicle because, as mentioned in studio, we're not going to have this vehicle launched at the time of recording this. Not going to have it launched for a few months. The time of recording this was towards the end of November of 2022, and whenever you're watching this video, it might be when the vehicle is already launched, or it might be beforehand. But at the time of recording this, we didn't know the pricing of this vehicle. We could only take a bit of an educated guess based on the price of the Audi S3 and of course the GTI, which is just under this car, which would put it somewhere around the 850,000 Rand mark without options. But what has it been like to spend a week with the car? Well, so far so good really. I have to say the 8th generation of the GTI that I experienced last year, I was quite disappointed with, because at the time of recording that, I owned a 7th generation GTI and I genuinely wouldn't have swapped that car for the 8th generation, simply because the infotainment system was so irritating and I didn't feel like there was any tangible benefit in terms of performance for the additional money that you would pay for an 8 GTI. So I suppose approaching this test, all I wanted to do was determine whether this is appreciably better than the 7th generation R in every area, so as to, tell you whether it's worth the wait and whether it's worth upgrading to. And speaking about worth the wait, this car is quite highly anticipated. During the last 6 days of me driving it around, I've had no less than 14 people come up to me, and I only have that exact figure in mind because after the third person came and struck up a conversation with me about the car, I decided to start counting and paying more attention to it. There's just been so much fanfare around this car, and I think because of the global pandemic delaying production of the R, I feel like this car has had a lot of fanfare and loads of people anticipating it coming into the local market. And how does this car perform? Well, I have to say, it's not a case as with the GTI where you weren't getting much more performance versus the predecessor. This car is noticeably faster than the 7th generation model. Now, Volkswagen claim that it will get from 0 to 100 in 4.8 seconds, but I think this car is quite a bit faster than that. I don't have an official V-Box, but I do have a Draggy, and the Draggy application told me that I did 0 to 100 the other day in 4.55 seconds, which is quite a bit faster than Volkswagen claim. And if I had to trust my butt dyno, which has been wrong before and it will be wrong again, but it's also been right on many occasions, I would say that it's definitely faster than claimed, and those figures sound pretty accurate. Sorry, I'm trying to do a launch control for you and realize I have to faff around to get the traction control system off. Righty, let's try a launch control. Yeah, that's a really quick car, and it's probably a dead iPhone. No, my iPhone's okay. But yeah, that's an impressive launch control system. The other nice thing about this new four-wheel drive system and the way that the suspension's been calibrated and the adaptive dampers work as well as the bigger brakes, is the added performance in terms of braking and handling. This car feels far more eager to turn in. It has a slight hint of oversteer coming on turn in, and midway through the corner really allows you to get on the power more quickly and get out of the corner in a more neutral fashion versus the previous 7R's more understeer prone exit to corner. So this is a lot more fun to drive. It feels like a hot hatch more than just a performance hatch that's really good at going in a straight line. So that's a big plus for this particular Golf R. We get to some of the things that I just do not like. Now, this infotainment system, granted it is better in this vehicle because it has got the latest software. It's better than it was in the Golf 8 GTR that I tested previously, which was quite laggy and difficult to use. Don't get me wrong, this particular system is still not the quickest to respond, but the fact that it's got this R button fitted to the steering wheel, which allows you a shortcut mode if you want all the performance, that's a big plus. And the fact that the system works a little bit more quickly and is a bit more intuitive now with the new software is a big plus for me. The only issue is it's just not as good as a system that incorporates buttons, and I can tell you this because I drove the Tiguan R a week ago, just before this particular vehicle, and we filmed that, and because that car's still got slightly more old school switch gear, you have got some buttons for various functions, and because you've got buttons and physically tangible switches to change things, you don't have to go into menus and sub-menus and faff around, really, if I'm being honest, to change things on the vehicle, like traction control. In this car, you have to go into a sub-menu that goes car, and then once you get into that, you have to flip the car around, go into brakes, and then you can activate the various traction control modes. It is just so frustrating at the end of the day, and it's unnecessarily complicated. I don't feel as if it is strictly necessary to have everything digitized in this cluster. I think what infotainment should do is make things as easy as humanly possible for you. And when we get to these haptic buttons on the steering wheel, and the fact that everything has got to be operated on the screen apart from the gear shift lever, which still looks like a little electric razor to me. It's just not as user-friendly as you'd want it to be. Other things that I've found fairly problematic with the car are some of the plastic materials inside here. Now, the lower end of the door cards here is not an area you interact with an awful lot, but because we don't have pricing, but as I mentioned earlier, we have sort of indicative pricing if we look at what a GTI and an S3, with which this car shares so much, costs. We have indicative pricing. So we know that this is going to be quite an expensive car. We know it's going to be nudging R1 million quite easily with all the options fitted. And to see so many plastic surfaces in here, well, it's not great when you consider how much you're paying for a Golf these days. Having said that, there is an awful lot of performance on offer, and I think unlike the 8 GTI, there is a lot more to like about the R. I think it is a step forward in terms of performance for the Golf R. It's a step forward in terms of driver engagement, and overall it is just a good performance hatchback. I don't know if it's a great performance hatchback, but it's really good. And I think because it wears the R badge, because it offers more performance, and because South Africans love the R and GTI badges as much as they do, this car is destined for success within the local market, and to be honest, it very likely deserves that success.
When looking at natural competitors for the 8th generation of the Volkswagen Golf R, well, there are two key rivals, one from Mercedes-AMG in the form of the A35, a product which we've tested extensively and have found to be deeply impressive in its own right. And then, of course, the Golf R's sister, the Audi S3, which at the time of recording was priced at around 890,000 Rand without options, which gives us our best guesstimate as to exactly what the Golf R's price would be. But overall, we'd have to have a look at what the Golf R is priced at before we can make a definitive conclusion.
And that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps us out a lot. If you like this video, please hit the like button below. Leave us a comment letting us know what you think of the Golf R. Remember, if you're looking to buy or sell your car, search Auto Trader. We also have a new instant offer program that makes selling your car super easy. Check out our website for more information. Until next time, thank you so much. Cheers.
Search Auto Trader.